Hello everyone, welcome back to OCD Recovery's YouTube channel for part 5 of the misconceptions about OCD recovery. I was forced to shave my beard because it got too red and my wife and my mom don't like it. I also have my Christmas shirt on today since the holidays are coming up. So I kind of wanted to, because today is the last day for me with my own work, and then I wanted to wear one of these Christmas shirts before the holidays. So I thought it was a good shirt to do in the video. So today I wanted to talk about how exposures, whilst yes, ERP is considered one of the gold standards, it's more than likely not going to lead you to recovery within itself, and why we have to kind of look at the core beliefs. And I'm going to give a couple examples. Maybe some of you can relate. Just as always, I just blanked out. Don't forget to subscribe, like that video, comment down below what you think about this, because this is definitely, well, they're all hot topics, but this one is something that we probably get a lot of kickback on because in the examples I'm going to use today, they're pretty clear why exposures aren't just the only thing that's needed, but they are definitely vital, more vital in certain things. So let me know what you think about the video, and here we go. So I got an itch on my nose. So ERP, exposure response prevention. So exposing yourself, and then response prevention, responding in a way to where you're kind of just sitting with the anxiety and letting it be there, which can be really uncomfortable. Now, when you have someone who has like a really bad HOCD or POCD, there is a hierarchy of how you, I can never say that word correctly, hierarchy, I have to slow it down, when you're going throughout exposing someone. So, you know, someone that's really bad POCD, you don't just want to throw the most intense documentary at them or bring them to the place they've been avoiding the most because they're just going to freak out. It's more than likely not going to be good for them. There are cases where that needs to be done. Now, for certain people like contamination OCD, where there's a lot of outward compulsions, so not touching things, avoiding touching certain areas, definitely exposure response prevention is very important. But let's talk about the ones where it's not that important. Sensory motor. As many of you know, 2 years ago, I was in the mental hospital. I always have to say, not everyone. Most people don't need to end up in the mental hospital. We just didn't really know what was going on because I had the really bad light switch moment and I was just freaking out. And I was highly suicidal, and my wife was like, okay, let's put you here. If I would have known the tools, I probably wouldn't have needed to go there no matter how bad I felt. So sensory motor, aka somatic OCD, aka hyper-awareness, the name's kind of irrelevant, but it just gives you an idea of what the fear is. So you are afraid of noticing a sensation forever. Now, there's not a lot of outward compulsions and not a lot of exposures needed. Now, if you want to correlate exposures to avoidance behaviors, like, okay, you're avoiding going to the gym because you have breathing OCD, so you want to expose yourself to that. Like, that is a way to where you're really looking at more of avoidance, but exposures and avoidance can kind of like overlap and be used together in order to, you know, plan for someone to get them better. So, but somatic OCD, one of the big mistakes I hear all the time is like breathing OCD, breathing through a tube, or saliva, letting saliva pool in your mouth to get used to it. These are understandable and why people are doing this, but they're ill-advised. And I don't think that they're necessary for somatic OCD at all. When you're looking at sensory motor OCD, and I was having a conversation with someone today, yes, unconditional acceptance is definitely needed for like POCD, harm OCD, really bad ROCD, mainly anything. Milder forms of OCD can kind of just go where it's not chronically latched all day, uncertainty, using the principles from, say, Claire Weeks' book, Self-Help for Your Nerves. But when it's chronically latched with OCD, because OCD and GAD, while both anxiety disorders, are different. There's similarities, but there's also differences. Paul David's book, At Last a Life, which is the 5th book on the reading list, he had GAD and kind of just went with uncertainty, which was amazing. That's usually not going to work for chronic OCD recovery. You'll need to look at that core belief. So sensory motor, people are always like, ERP is the gold standard. It's the gold standard. That's a misconception and outdated information. So the number one thing that's keeping somatic OCD, I'm just going to call it somatic OCD for the rest of the video, is the fear of being stuck forever and noticing it forever. So you can go. I took away all my avoidance behaviors for a year and a half. I had no avoidance behaviors. I started the business. I was working with Rob. I was hiking. I was exercising, going with uncertainty, and it was still latched. Boom, 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 boom. So I was getting frustrated, and Rob said to me, and other people who were further along or recovered from sensory motor, Paul Whittle helped me a lot with this in the beginning. They were saying it has nothing to do with the sensation. You are afraid of being stuck forever. So until you address that, I cold-heartedly believe if you bring down avoidance behaviors, and you work on the core fear, that is how you get better from sensory motor. Exposures are absolutely not necessary for somatic OCD. Direct exposures, like sitting in bed, focusing on your breathing for 15 minutes, like that can have a benefit at some period of time, but it's actually not needed. Let's put it this way, if you only focused on bringing down avoidance behaviors and you never addressed fear of fear, I can almost guarantee you'll never recover from sensory motor. And I could say that very confidently. The other way, if you never do direct exposures where you're sucking through a straw to mimic a panic attack and you're letting saliva and you're blinking a lot to notice you're blinking, if you never did any of those exposures and only worked on the fear of fear and bring the avoidance behaviors down, you can 100% make serious headway / recover. But just by doing catered exposures to your sensation will not bring you very far, because you might not be afraid of this sensation. This is the key. Ready? This is the key. Listen to what I'm about to say. This is the same thing for chronic anxiety sensations. You might not be afraid of the sensation, but you might be afraid of it being there forever. Well, I mean, it's not that bad, right? Give you an example. I can stand being chronically anxious right now, but what if it stays forever? The example I always use is if I came to you right now and told you you were going to be hyper aware of your breathing. I use anxiety, but we'll use breathing. Hyper aware of your breathing for the rest of your life, but it was going to be gone on March 1st, 2022. You'd be like, well, screw it. I mean, yeah, it's going to be annoying, but it's going to be gone. But because the uncertainty of the unknown is there, that is the fear of fear. This is the thing that is 100% misunderstood in sensory motor OCD podcasts or experts talking about it. They have a lot of things right, a lot of things I agree with, but the things they have wrong are missing the core of sensory motor. So they'll get rid of a lot of the suffering in a sense, but it probably will still linger. This is what I have, because I work with a decent amount of sensory motor sufferers, and this is the consensus I get when they're coming to me from all these other people. They're doing these set exposures, and I'll say, well, have you ever worked on the fear of being stuck forever? They're like, no. I'm like, well, that's your problem right there. The sensation itself is not the problem. My other buddy, Aaron, way before I met Rob, talked about this. This is years ago. He said, right when I first got latched, it's not the sensation. It's the fear of the sensation being there forever that's keeping it stuck. It's not the anxiety per se, but the fear of it being there forever and ruining all this stuff. Where then be some health OCD. Go, well, then if I have chronic anxiety and my body deteriorates and all these other things you'll have to work on. So this is why exposures are absolutely necessary for most fears. Some fears don't really need them, but again, exposing yourself to avoidance with sensory motor can be intertwined. You're really kind of talking about semantics there, but when a lot of people are saying like exposures are the only thing you need, which has gotten a lot better in our community, but there still are a lot of people saying that ERP is all you need. It's the gold standard. That is outdated. The literature might not support it, but the anecdotes are so incredibly strong that it supports it in every single way. And mental health research in itself is odd because it's so subjective it's like pain scales. It's so objective. So we kind of want to move away from like, this is what the research says straight out. Again, research is important. I'm a nerd. I love research. But we need to have validity in like, okay, this was the gold standard, but this seems to be working really well for a lot of people. That's where people are like, they get so stuck on that stuff. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Super important. Let me know what you think down below. I didn't even realize until right now that this shirt, oh my God, look how cool it is, doesn't have a head and I'm the head. Oh my gosh, mind blown. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy your holidays, whatever you celebrate, whatever that may be, and have a good one. And the next one's coming in for part 6. I'm going to do the, why feeling good for a couple days doesn't mean recovery. I'm going to talk all about backdoor spikes. I'm going to be talking about long-term avoidance, like specifically, like, oh, you don't need to avoid caffeine. I hear that all the time. You can never have caffeine. It makes anxiety worse. That is a complete lie, and you're setting yourself up for fear of fear. Look for those to come. Thank you so much. Have a great day.